I'm going to basically get into details on the Pakistan link here, but just prima facie, it appears clearly to be a terror attack. Sir Ranjan Dwivedi, if you could fill us in on why the authorities are not saying it explicitly. Why aren't they calling this a terror attack already? They have busted a massive terror module. It appears that Mohammed Omar is clearly linked to a larger network, a white-collar terror network, where doctors, students are all indoctrinated to this level, radicalized to this level, where they're pulling out terror attacks. They're clearly linked with Pakistan's Jaish-e-Mohammed. Again, information given out by the investigative agencies that there is a link to Jaish, but yet they're not calling this one a terror attack yet. Why?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And initially, I think what deterred them from calling it even an IED explosion was that there was no crater formed, which usually forms if there's an IED explosion. And they thought there's a possibility that it was just the cylinder that exploded, but obviously it's not. And there's, now it's established that it was an IED explosion. And, as I mentioned in some channel yesterday, that, you see, the place was crowded, undoubtedly. But if the person wanted to have an explosion and create terror with the kind of explosives he had, he could have gone to a much bigger place, much more dense place, and caused a lot more anxiety, or casualty, sorry. The second thing is, you see, again, this was not a situation for a suicidal attack. A suicidal attack would be required only if your car is near or trying to enter a security establishment or a heavily guarded place or a heavily guarded individual. In that case, the person has to give up his life for the vehicle to explode. But here, this situation was not there. And it wasn't necessary for him to give up his life. And this leads to some kind of a inkling that perhaps this was an accident. This was an accident. It wasn't intended to be done here. And what I add to it is, of course, it's very bad. This explosion happened. So many people lost their life. So many are injured. But a much bigger incident has been saved. This was a plan for a much bigger incident, which then would have been a planned terror attack. This is a terror accident, and it's because of this ambiguity that the security agencies are not, very forthcoming on the nature of this incident. Secondly, remember, the press and the common people are very anxious, very eager to know as to what happened really. But the security agencies, for them, they would not like to divulge any information, because if they divulge information, that only cautions the terror modules, the handlers, and so on. Like you saw in the Bombay attack. You see, people were assembled there, the TV was there, and the TV was being watched. And then the IB said, look, put the newsmen away. Because of the TV, the handlers know exactly what's happening. So the intelligence agencies and the police would like to come up only with whatever is necessary or probably has already reached the public domain.
Yeah.
They would not like to be very forthcoming with information which they have collected. You see that then their own networks, there are international networks, there are back channel the contacts they have with other agencies, which works on one-to-one basis. There's a plethora of information. I'm sure by now, billions of data has been scored, has been searched.
Yeah.
But obviously, all that has not been brought forward. And why should they? Why should they? The interest of the people, interest of the country, is that we should have a good investigation and reach wherever we can before the guys escape. So, the stage we're in, I'm very, very happy and very satisfied with the progress that we made. It was a very unfortunate incident. We will feel very sorry about that. Then there's this one thing about doctors. This is another question that's being raised. Now, what I always say is that a man on the street who doesn't have anything to eat, for him to be radicalized is very difficult. Why? Because his concern is tomorrow's meals, his children, their education, and so on. Doctors and people in universities, they come in what's called the intelligentsia, and there's some kind of there's some kind of effort all the time to come up with theories and intellectualize events, intellectualize trends, and so on. But these people, it's much easier to get radicalized because they think they're intelligent and they can be affected by ideology. And personally, you see, if this has a doctor, a motor mechanic, and a government employee and a teacher, I would be more concerned. If there are 3-4 doctors, that means they were together. And the group on Telegram was called Radicalized Doctors,
Wow.
So, and it's strange that, this was missed by agencies and was not picked up. And it has led to this kind, or maybe it was picked up and that's how they got the Haryana, the Faridabad, the hall. That's also possible. But you see, they haven't revealed all that. But these are initially, these are the problems.
From what you're saying, that there's a group called Radicalized Doctors on Telegram, and if it was spotted by the investigative agencies, I think they only underestimated it. Never thought it would get this far.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if they spotted that, they got hold of that, and that's how probably the Faridabad hall came,
Right.
That intelligence brought the Faridabad hall, That's what I'm saying.
So it was a link. Basically, that's the group
Yeah,
on
sure.
Telegram was basically what led the police to bust this terror network.
This is
Your assessment. Okay, I get it.
Yeah,
But kudos to the investigative agencies, the Jammu and Kashmir police, the Delhi police. They've done a fantastic job in ensuring that a bigger terror attack did not take place. I'm not saying that this was small. 12 people have died in this attack right in front of Red Fort. It's bad enough. But imagine if at all these people achieved in what they were preparing for. I can only imagine the damage. The gravity of the situation would have been much and far more deeper. But I'd like you all to, for the moment, bring your attention to how this i20 car came in to Delhi and its exact route, tracking that Red Fort blast trail. The Hyundai i20 is at the center of this Red Fort terror blast. It entered Delhi from Haryana's Faridabad on Monday morning. CCTV mapping by the Delhi Police's special cell shows clearly that the car was crossing the Badarpur toll at around 8:13 a.m. in the morning, with the driver, who is suspected to be Omar Mohammed, seated right inside that car, paying that toll in cash. I'm showing you that video there of that toll yet again. That toll area, that car stopped and he paid in cash. There was no toll sticker. He paid in cash. He's not used a UPI. He's paid in cash. I'm repeating myself. And then he moves forward. Minutes later, at around 8:20 a.m., then the car stops at another petrol pump. Taking you through those images. The petrol pump where the car stops, that petrol pump, which is Okhla industrial area. Again, if I may request for the visual of the petrol pump to be played out. Yeah, there you have it. The car there right in front of a petrol pump, and it stops for a pollution check. That's what it appears to be doing. I wonder why, but it stops for a pollution check. At that petrol pump, it could be very possible if that pollution check wasn't done. Cops in Delhi are always hovering to check whether your vehicle pollution is done, to ask for your certificate. They're just in every nook and corner. And they usually ask you to step aside or stop to the side of the road if you don't have a pollution certificate right then and there to show the police. So it appears as if this man was very well prepared and he didn't want to get stopped because he had explosives in the car, ensured a pollution check and then moved forward from there. This is right as he got into Delhi in the morning of that fateful day. Well, from there on, this i20 then drove through the outer ring road, headed towards Old Delhi area. It was later then seen entering the Sunehri Masjid area, the parking area where the car stopped, right near the Red Fort area. The car stopped near a masjid, Sunehri Masjid, at around 3:19 p.m. And for nearly 3 hours, Omar Mohammed sat in that car. He did not budge, not for a minute. He did not step out. He did not want to leave the car even for a minute. He stayed in the car for 3 hours, possibly waiting for some instructions or a signal or whatever. But after 3 hours, at 6:28 p.m., he drove out of that parking lot and then began moving towards central Delhi, possibly his destination. As he was driving past the bustling Chandni Chowk area, that i20 passed through some religious places as well, including the Digambar Jain temple and the Gauri Shankar temple. It passed through all those temples but did not stop. And then it crossed the crowded electronics market area and one of the Red Fort metro entry points. Soon after that, barely 400 meters ahead of the metro station, the car takes a U-turn. Investigators believe that the U-turn was deliberate because he wanted to get as close to the Red Fort complex as possible. And second later, the blast ripped through the vehicle, and the closest point it was to the Red Fort, and it seems like it was a deliberate attempt to make a statement. He got very, very close to the Red Fort, taking a U-turn so that he could get as close as a private car can get to the monument. Sources say that Omar, he's a doctor from Pulwama. He has triggered this blast in panic after his two associates, Dr. Mujammil Shakil and Dr. Adil Radar, was arrested in Faridabad, where the police had seized 2,900 kgs of explosives just a day earlier. So out of panic, because his associates were arrested, he set off this blast. Investigators believe that they used ammonium nitrate fuel oil, ANFO, to make that explosive device. The car itself has a long trail as well. If I could tell you, this car, the i20 car, it was sold in 2013, 2014 to a man named Salman in Gurugram. Salman then sold it to Devendra in Okhla. Then Devendra sold it to another man in Ambala. And that man passed it on to Amir in Pulwama. And finally, from Amir, it reached Dr. Omar Muhammad. And it appears that the last few sales or last few buys, at least the last few people that took that car, did it without documentation. They did not fix documentation. They did not change the registration. The car was registered in the first owner's name, that was Salman. It was possibly done deliberately, knowing very well that a documentation would be easier for the police to track. So get a car without documents. And that's what usually happens in second-hand markets. Well, investigators now are trying to piece together all the links and are trying to trace if there is a larger network behind this. This is as large as it can get.